Now, I think that we could all safely agree that 2023 has been by far the worst year for Disney, and even for Bob Iger as a Disney CEO, it really has tarnished whatever was left of his legacy, if you even want to debate on whether or not he even had a legacy to begin with. I mean, what he's basically known for at this point is by ruining franchises and making multiple bad decisions ever since he was within Disney. When he came back after the Chapek era, things just got a lot worse. Now, focusing on Snow White, the live-action remake, there's a lot of problems arising out of this film behind closed doors. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing about the Snow White marketing campaign that is wreaking havoc over at Disney has a lot to do with the cutbacks. We talked about this, that Bob Iger made the ultimate call that the board of directors immediately agreed with, was by dialing back on the funds by 45% for the marketing of Snow White. In case you guys did not know, the marketing was going to be well over $100 million. They are dialing back on that drastically to save spending, to save money essentially, because they know that this movie's going to fail at the box office. They know the backlash is too strong, and they know it's going to get worse once that Snow White trailer drops. And speaking about the trailer, there's a lot of big things happening with this that speaks volumes about what Disney is doing with this actual film. Let's get into all of this, shall we? Now, with that being all put out there, with Snow White 24 going through endless drama within Disney, one major development has to do with the current cut of the Snow White trailer by Disney that has been going through endless issues behind the scenes. One big sequence in the current trailer involves a full-fledged sequence in which the 7 magical creatures can be seen dancing in a single file formation, with ZEGLER's Snow White leading the way on top of a log during sunset that is seemingly a reimagining of the famous shot from the 37 originals. So you guys may recall that sequence where the 7 dwarfs are crossing over the log, where you do have that sunset-y appearance in the background. They are reimagining that, where they are now dancing, they are chanting, they are raising their weapons, and ZEGLER's Snow White is leading the way. It already sounds very cringe to begin with, and it just goes to show you how poor Disney's choices really are with this movie. Now, here, the creatures are raising their weapons, which actually includes sticks and spears, and chanting can be heard in the background. That's seemingly a song of some kind. The current trailer actually involved a short tease of the remixed version of the Hi-Ho song that is going to be a mixture of hip-hop and folk music that is played over the shot and is reportedly just as bad as the Scuttlebutt song from The Little Mermaid. One other sequence in the trailer that the editors of a Disney-hired trailer company finalized is our first look at Gal Gadot as the evil queen. Now, the makeup and CGI for Gal's transformation scene is reportedly very subpar, and comes across as appearing like it came straight out of a low-budget independent film. Gal even delivers dialogue in the trailer that is overlaid with this shot where the word patriarchy can be heard in the background. This is in relation to the scene within the second act in which the evil queen announces her success, overtaking the kingdom of King White. Now, let me just stop here. The thing about this is that we know that Greta Gerwig is the writer of Snow White. For those of you that do not know, she is the creator of the Barbie film. And we all know how many times she used the word patriarchy in that movie. Well, it's going to be used in Snow White to a specific degree, maybe not quite as severe as Barbie, but the fact that they are going the extra mile to have it be heard in the trailer, in the background, though it may not very well be directly clear, it is heard in the background reportedly, where you can hear it, of an overlay dialogue sequence focusing on her transformation scene. That's really just going to show you that Greta Gerwig and everyone else involved in this film are going to fail, and they're going to fail hard. Now, we already know that Snow White's father is codenamed King White in this movie. That's not to say that he's going to be called that in the film itself. That is basically what he is described as throughout the production of this film and throughout the script. Now, will he be called that by name in the actual story? We're not quite sure, but that is what he is referenced to as by director Mark Webb and writers Greta Gerwig and Aaron Wilson, the co-writer. Now, this is where matters get even worse. Let's dive into this, and I think this is where it gets really laughable. Now, on top of that, another shot in the current cut of the trailer is one of the worst sequences in which the 7 magical creatures can be seen hopping up and down on their beds inside of their cabin with Snow White seen in the background singing a song. This is going to be the first look at ZEGLER's singing in the trailer, in which she demonstrates lyrics about anti-love and rising to become a leader. Multiple songs in this movie revolve around that overall goal and way of believing. In this shot, the magical creatures are also seen laughing and throwing pillows at each other in some of the quick shots. The scenes of these characters in the trailer have been greatly reduced by 80% by Disney to dial back on Backlash as it is, though these remain as of right now. They are still aiming to drop the trailer by this holiday season around November or December at the latest. Now again, about these magical creatures. This is what Disney calls them, by the way. This is not what I like to call them, but this is what Disney references them as. They're not the 7 dwarfs. They are now called these magical creatures, so to speak, that are told through a myth or a fairy tale book that Snow White grew up with. And we talked about this in a previous leak, that in the first act of the film that kind of focuses on Snow White's childhood a little bit, where you get to actually get a glimpse of an over-the-shoulder shot of King White reading her a tale of the 7 dwarfs. And it's the actual 7 dwarfs in the 1937 original. It's an in-your-face dangling of the carrot moment, and basically it's like a fairy tale within a fairy tale is what it's basically setting itself up as, where it ends up not being true. So there are multiple scenes in this film where the 7 creatures actually laugh about how inaccurate the fairy tale describes them as, visually speaking, right? And it goes to show you that Greta Gerwig, Aaron Wilson, director Mark Webb, they like to throw this in the audience's face. That they don't care about the 37 original, that they would rather just use that as a tool to kind of throw this in there as a fairy tale within a fairy tale. And it just is terrible, it's cringe, and I can already see the face on, Hand, the son of the original creator of Snow White 1937. We know that there's a lot of things going into that as well. So, interestingly enough, we know that this movie is going to be one of the biggest box office failures of all time over at Disney. I know a lot of you may or may not agree with me on that. Some people think it might miss that mark, but I think it most certainly will mark itself as the worst flop by Disney in history. I'm really saying that, and I really do genuinely believe that, because I know a lot of families out there, and they're already boycotting this movie, because this was mainstream. Those leaked images of the 7 dwarfs, everything about Rachel Zegler, it was everywhere, that to the point where you could not really even ignore it. So overall, I would really love to hear your take and to chime in below in the comments below about what you have to say about this entire scenario. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.